Hey, this is Warren Redlick. This is the ultimate Be Less Wrong video. I'm going to tell Now You Know channel that they need to be less wrong. Are you ready? Let's go. A lot of people have been talking to me about a recent video by Zac and Jesse on the Now You Know channel. I want to be clear first off that Zac and Jesse and the Now You Know channel were one of my early YouTube intros to understanding the Tesla community. And for a long time, I was a huge fan of Zac and Jesse. At the same time, I don't really watch their channel anymore. And this video is going to show you why I no longer watch their channel. I think their quality of their work has fallen aside. They've gotten more into entertainment and less into providing quality information. And you'll see here how I break down their misconceptions and their bad arguments to break down what they've got wrong and why they've got it wrong. And it was so bad that I couldn't even finish going through their video. Let's first go through their intro to the video. I'm going to take bits and pieces of their video and then respond to those pieces. Let's start with this.
This episode is about a problem that we think Tesla currently has, and one which we think could get much worse this year.
If you watch this channel at all, you know that Zac and I are the biggest Tesla fans in the world.
And of course, I used to be one of the biggest fans of the Now You Know channel in the world. I'm not anymore. They're talking about this like this is a huge problem, as if they have this high-level understanding of Tesla's business. This is something that permeates this video, is the notion that, look, we're YouTubers, we know Tesla's business better than Elon does. And they literally say that at one point, that Elon doesn't know the business. They literally say that they talk as if they know the business better. And look, I'm a YouTuber. I talk about this. I suffer from the same problem that I sometimes talk like I know what I'm talking about more than somebody else. Generally speaking, I'm pretty sure Elon knows his businesses better than I do, and I'm trying to understand his businesses and talk about it. I do act like I know more about Tesla than some other people who act like they know more about Tesla than Elon. But I don't believe I know more than Elon. I don't believe I know more than Zach Kirkhorn or Drew Baglino. I think there's a lot of stuff they know that we don't know. Now, this video is talking about a supposed problem with Tesla service, which say any business has problems, right? Any business has problems. But this is about Tesla service. Did Now You Know not realize that this came up at an investor call or at an annual meeting, that they answered a question about this where there was this line, the best service is no service. Their goal is to make the cars better, so they need less service. So that's their approach. They're focused more on making the cars better, so less service is needed rather than, and they are trying to expand service centers. They do think it's important, but Zac and Jesse talk like they never saw that conversation that happened during a Tesla investor call. So let's dive a little deeper. Here's their problem number one. Interestingly, you see this slide, problem number one, not enough service centers. As far as I got into the video, I never found problem number two. I'm not sure what the game plan was there.
Is that Tesla does not have enough service centers in certain parts of the world. Now, we live in New England. That's near Boston in the great state of Massachusetts. Massachusetts, even though it's a rather small state, not huge like California or Texas, we actually have one of the highest concentrations of Teslas in the world.
That's right. If you look at Teslas per capita, Massachusetts is right up there at the top of the list.
Okay, so there's a bunch of things in here. Number one, it's not about you. There's this tendency we all have to relate everything in what happens in a company to what happens in my life or in my area. So I live in Florida. Maybe I should be talking about how this relates to Florida rather than how it relates to Massachusetts. When Tesla is a global company selling cars in China, selling cars in Europe, selling cars in North America, and more. So localizing your problem to just looking at Massachusetts or New England kind of misses something. And also, there's a clear misstatement of fact that Massachusetts is at or near the top of the list. If you look at this graph, they very quickly got away from the West Coast. You can see that California has a much higher per capita rate of Tesla ownership. And Oregon and Washington also have higher rates of ownership. Colorado has a higher rate of ownership, and they describe themselves as being at the top of the list when they're not at the top of the list. They're around number 5 or 6. I think they're number 6 on the list. And they talk about themselves, maybe 7 because Hawaii has more as well. And Vermont has more. So they're number 7, number 8 on the list. The notion that Massachusetts is an adequate representation of the much larger problem is misleading, and this is just one step along the way to how they get the problem messed up. Okay, so now we're going to get into some bad math, some unthinking apples and oranges, bad math type of thinking that Zac and Jesse get into here. They're going to compare the number of service stations for internal combustion engine vehicles to the number of Tesla service centers. So watch this clip and let me explain what's wrong with it.
Drive an ICE car in the US. If you were one of the 275 million people driving an ICE car, then you have about 234,000 service stations to choose from.
Here in Massachusetts, with let's say 20,000 Teslas and 3 Tesla service centers, that's 6,667 Teslas per service center.
What they just did there was they compared apples to oranges. They compared the number of service stations for internal combustion engine vehicles in the United States to the number of Tesla service centers, the number of Tesla vehicles in Massachusetts. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. For starters, they didn't compare to the number of car dealers, new car dealers in the United States. That would be an interesting comparison because the Tesla service center is roughly equivalent to a new car dealer rather than equivalent to a Tesla service station, rather than equivalent to an auto service center station. So there are many oil change shops. There are many tire shops in the United States. Are you counting oil change shops when Teslas don't need oil changes? Are you counting muffler shops when Teslas don't have mufflers? If I need new tires on my Tesla, I don't have to go to a Tesla service center. I can go to any internal combustion engine service center to get my tires changed. So this is bad math. This is apples to oranges thinking. You can see here where they got the number roughly. I assume they got the number here or somewhere similar, that in the fourth quarter of 20, there were nearly 234,700 auto repair and maintenance centers in the United States. But that's all kinds. That's not just car dealerships. How many car dealerships are there and car dealership service centers are there? Well, apparently there's about 18,000 car dealerships in the United States. So there's 18,000 car dealership service centers in the United States. That's a really different number from 234,000 auto repair centers. That's a 10x difference. That's an order of magnitude. We're going to see order of magnitude later. That's an order of magnitude difference in how they got their numbers wrong. Okay? Tesla owners can go to can go to any tire shop to get their tires replaced. They can go to any oil change center they want to try to get an oil change on their Tesla. There's lots of things that are out there that are independent shops that provide services that Teslas don't even need. Another problem that they're comparing here is what's the volume that an individual repair shop can handle versus what's the volume that a Tesla service center can handle? How many cars per day can they handle? And we don't know how big is a Tesla service center versus how big is the average automotive repair shop. If the average automotive repair shop has 2 or 3 bays and a Tesla service center has 10 bays, if the average automotive repair shop has 2 or 3 mechanics working and the average Tesla service center has 10 mechanics working or 10 technicians working, that's a totally different thing. And we don't know the answer to that question. I did try to find an answer to this question. I went and found this on Quora where this one guy says it depends on what the mechanic is doing. A mechanic probably averages working on about 4 cars a day, but some will take 4 hours or even a whole day or longer depending on what it is. A mechanic who works on transmissions may average only 1 car a day or 1 car every 2 days depending on the make and model. There's no transmission work on a Tesla, generally speaking, because the transmissions are really simple. EVs are better vehicles. So a lot of the work that is done in auto repair shops is done on things that either aren't a problem at all in Teslas or are much rarer problems. A good example is brake service. Yes, Teslas do occasionally need brake service, but because of regenerative braking, Teslas wear their brakes a lot less. They put a lot less strain on the brakes on the car, the brakes that are on the wheels on the car. So they need to be replaced less. And this is a well-known fact about Teslas. So they need less service. The best service is no service. They ignore this, and there's more. There were 2 other answers to this. Our shop does major mechanical repairs, blah, blah, blah. We average about 18 cars per day. This other guy says we have 5 techs and we average about 20 cars a day. I don't know how many cars per day a typical Tesla shop handles. I don't know how many cars per day a typical Tesla mechanic handles. I don't know how many cars per day a typical mobile service tech is able to handle. I don't know the answers to these questions. Neither does Now You Know. Neither do Zac and Jesse. They don't know the answers to these questions. We know that there are people at Tesla who work on these problems, and I'm pretty sure they actually know the answers to these questions, and they're doing their best to fix these problems and make it better. But to assume that you know the problem better than the people who run Tesla is a serious flaw in your thinking. You can see more of this flawed analysis when Zac and Jesse talk about the mobile service fleet. Listen to this.
But we don't have that many of them. We estimate about 6 in our state. They only operate out of 2 of the service centers. And let me tell you, even though I think they're great, but they are mobile. So they have to drive to each appointment, which means they can only see so many customers per day, no matter how efficiently they try to plan. We'll get to more of that in a minute. So I would only count all the mobile techs in the state at best as the equivalent to another service center.
They would only count them a certain way. They make their own judgment about how to count them, and they equate 6 mobile service vans to 1 service center. I don't know whether that's the right number or not, and neither do they. Or I don't know how many service appointments per day a mobile tech can do. Maybe it's 10, when the average car mechanic does 4. I don't know. And I know it's a huge convenience to Tesla owners that sometimes the service techs can come to their home. So that's an example of Tesla service actually being significantly better than other car companies, because I had a Volkswagen. And this is one of the big things here is there's no sense of comparing quality of experience between Tesla and internal combustion engine vehicles. I have a Volkswagen Passat still. My daughter now drives it. My service experience at my local Volkswagen dealer has been horrible. I had good service experiences in the past at a Honda dealer. I had reasonably good experiences at an Audi dealer, but I had terrible experiences at a Volkswagen dealer. And generally speaking, I think most people feel that service at car company dealerships is terrible. I think that's the general overall impression. The other thing that's totally missing from their analysis, and I don't know the answer to this either, is what percentage of Tesla owners have these kinds of service problems? Is it 50%? Well, obviously that would be a big problem. Is it 10%? Significant problem. Is it 1%? Now we're starting to talk about it's a smaller problem. Maybe it's 1/10 of 1%. We don't know. If there's 2 million Teslas on the road and 0.1% of them have a problem, that's 2,000 problems. That's 2,000 bad stories. That sounds like a lot. But if 99.9% of the customers don't have bad stories, then you're doing pretty good. I don't know how to weigh that, and neither do they, and they don't even try. They don't make any effort because maybe the information just isn't there, and they're just relating their personal experience. At one point they said, this isn't a gripe session. And then, of course, they went through their gripes of their own personal bad service experiences. And look, I made a video where I was unhappy with the Tesla solar roof experience. But at the end I said, hey, listen, Tesla's doing the best they can. I appreciate it. Not everything you do is going to be a hit. Do the best you can. I didn't preach to Tesla like I know more about solar roof than they do. At least I don't think I did. So their faulty reasoning leads into this faulty math. Are you ready?
So let's do the math again, this time saying that there are 4 Tesla service centers in Massachusetts. That comes out to 20,000 Teslas divided by 4, and you get
1 service center for every 5,000 cars.
And what was that ICE car average again?
1 for every 1,180.
Now, again, they're doing their math wrong on the auto service centers. If they went by dealerships instead of by auto service centers, which includes oil change shops, tire repair places, body shops, if you just went to dealerships, all of a sudden the ratio would be flipped. So I went ahead and did the math, and it turns out that the ratio of internal combustion engine new car dealers to 275 million cars is 15,000 to 1, where Tesla's is somewhere in the ballpark of 6,000 to 1. So Tesla's ratio of service centers to Teslas on the road is much better than new car dealers. They presume that their math is correct. It isn't. They presume that they know what they're doing. They don't. And they give you misleading numbers. Tesla's actually doing better than internal combustion engine companies in terms of dealing with this stuff. And you have this issue that Teslas need less service. They don't need oil changes. They don't need mufflers. They don't need transmission servicing, generally speaking. Their motors last longer. They don't need piston rings. There's so many things that go wrong in internal combustion engine vehicles that don't go wrong in a Tesla. They just miss that. And they also miss that Tesla is improving the quality of new cars. Now, here we get to one of these moments where Zac and Jesse know Tesla's business better than Tesla knows its own business. They know Tesla's business better than Elon knows it, better than Drew knows it, better than Zach Kirkhorn knows it. Apparently, they know better. That's why they're running this successful business enterprise known as the Now You Know channel. They don't run a manufacturing operation. They don't serve 2 million customers in the same way that Tesla does. So they don't really know what they're talking about. But here, let them tell you they know what they're talking about. They know how to run a business.
Tesla has a fair chunk of cash in the bank now.
Yeah, about $16 billion.
And I think now would be a good time to spend it on more service centers because
there are more Teslas coming.
Yeah, So far, Tesla has produced a little over 2 million cars. 2022 is now here, and Tesla could quite possibly produce 2 million more cars this year.
So that would double the number of Teslas on the road in the next 12 months.
So taking our little Massachusetts as a microcosm of the world, that could mean that by the end of this year, there could be 40,000 Teslas on the roads here in Massachusetts and still only 3, but we'll say 4, service centers to repair them.
Well, that would still leave Tesla with a ratio of 10,000 to 1, which is better than the 15,000 to 1 ratio that internal combustion engine car dealer service centers have to internal combustion engine cars. It ignores the fact that a lot of the growth is happening in other countries. The idea that Massachusetts is the microcosm that should be used to assess all of Tesla's operations is faulty analysis. There's just so much wrong in this, but this idea that these guys know better than Tesla. And then it also ignores that the newer Teslas are made with higher standards. They're made better. As Tesla grows, as Tesla improves their work, they do a better job of making quality vehicles that need less service. This is something they've been working on for years, and this is something they talked about. The best service is no service, and you just ignored the fact that they've addressed this question before. The best service is no service. If they make better cars, those cars will need less service, and you will need fewer service centers. They just totally missed that. One of the things that I've noticed when people complain about this is it tends to be an anecdotal experience. I had a bad experience, therefore Tesla has a problem. Therefore, this is a big problem for Tesla. And now, expands that to their Massachusetts microcosm and their audience and their Patreon supporter microcosm, as if this explains everything that's going on at Tesla, and as if Tesla has never addressed this issue before, which they have addressed it many times. So listen to what they say here first, listen to their anecdotal experience, and then I want you to hear what Zac Kirkhorn said about 3 months ago. Zac Kirkhorn, the CFO of Tesla. But listen to Now You Know first with their anecdotal bit, and then I'll show you what Zac Kirkhorn says.
But Zac, hang on. Maybe you're blowing this all out of proportion. I mean, maybe when you visit a Tesla service station today in Massachusetts, it's completely empty.
No. Jesse and I regularly visit all the service centers, and we hear from a ton of friends and fans in New England, and they are always packed to the gills.
It would be bad if there were so many service centers that they were empty. That would be a bad thing. You do want to run your service centers so that they're full. This is the way businesses are run. I'm sorry if Zac and Jesse don't get that and they want some sort of crazy experience where you go to the service center and there's nobody there and you're the first one in line. That would be great. That would be a nice world for you. It wouldn't be good for Tesla shareholders. It wouldn't be good for the company. It wouldn't be good for advancing the transition to sustainable energy either. So this is from the Q3 2021 investor call. This is something they've addressed multiple times in the past. Zac Kirkhorn. Zac Kirkhorn is different from Zac and Jesse on the Now You Know channel. This is Zac Kirkhorn, the CFO of Tesla, one of the top 3 people at Tesla. You've got Elon, you've got Drew Baglino, and you've got Zac Kirkhorn. These are that's one of the 3 key people listed in Tesla's description of their company. Zac is asked this question by Martin Vieca, the director of investor relations. And they get this question all the time, and they answer it the same way all the time. And Now You Know apparently didn't listen to the investor call. I don't understand how you missed this. This is a lengthy answer to this problem that Zac and Jesse from Now You Know completely ignored, that all these people complaining about this on Twitter and my YouTube comments completely ignore. Listen right here to what Zac Kirkhorn says about Tesla service. This is about 3 minutes long, but listen carefully.
Service remains an issue with appointments available weeks or even months out. What concrete steps is Tesla taking to improve the customer experience?
We have seen an increase in service wait times throughout the summer. There's a couple of things that have contributed to that based upon the information that we have. This is not unique to us, is that the return to some sense of normalcy in a post-pandemic world has happened, I think, more quickly than most people expected. And what we're seeing here is that the number of miles that people are driving has increased. There may have been some demand for service during 2020 or in the early parts of 2021 that customers put off. And so there's a bit of a catch-up that's occurring that has increased demand for service. At the same time, in the macro environment here, logistics, moving parts, sourcing parts has become increasingly more difficult, which is a well-known issue in the world right now, as well as challenges in the labor market. And so there's kind of this simultaneous increase in demand for service where the ability to supply that service has been impacted for the reasons I mentioned. And so, we saw an uptick primarily in Europe and North America in service wait times over the course of the summer. And we've been working extremely hard since then to address this. And we've seen our wait times come down. So this is not the case in every location, but if you think about it from regional average perspectives, we are seeing improvements there. We remain super focused on adding locations. And so over the last year, we've grown our physical footprint of service centers by 35%. We've grown our footprint of mobile repair by over 40%. We're also adding staffing as quickly as we can in the areas that are most impacted by the imbalance of supply and demand for service. But I think the most important part about all of this is, and we've said this on calls before, where the best service is no service. And so we have been incredibly focused as a company, both on the initial quality of our vehicles and reliability of our vehicles. And we've seen pretty substantial improvements in both of those metrics over the long term and over the last couple of quarters. So it is something that remains on our minds. We monitor this very closely, but hopefully that's a helpful explanation.
So this is the thing. Now made this video as if Tesla was completely unaware of concerns about service wait times and all this. And it just happened 3 months ago, and it's happened before in investor calls that they've addressed this question in investor calls. Zach Kirkhorn just went in depth explaining, yes, we had a surge in wait times, and now we've gotten that improved, and we are hiring. We're doing all the things that you're saying. We're trying to expand service center locations. And you've got Zac and Jesse from Now You Know. Like, did you not listen to the investor call? I listen to every investor call. I take apart every investor call. I listen to it carefully. And so many people are treating this like, what are you saying? Are you saying Zach Kirkhorn should be fired because you think he's not doing a good job? Zach Kirkhorn just told you what Tesla is doing about this problem, and you're ignoring him. You're acting like they're not trying. You're acting like they're not doing anything. I had to go back and find this. Most of this video that I made before I listened to this again. And I remembered this because I listened to what they say at the investor calls. I listen to everything Tesla says. If you're going to be a channel talking about Tesla and you're not going to pay attention to everything that Tesla says, and the number of times they have talked about this service issue, the number of times they have addressed it, and you're going to ignore that, nowhere in the Now You Know video do they talk about Zach Kirkhorn addressing this less than 3 months ago. What are you doing? Don't tell me that you're supporting you did support the Tesla mission. You were great supporters of the Tesla mission before. What happened to you, Zac and Jesse? What happened to you that you completely ignored this explanation of what's going on? You decided your Massachusetts microcosm is a better representation of what's going on for Tesla as a company as a whole than Zach Kirkhorn, the CFO, just explained 3 months ago. How do you deal with that? I don't know. But anyway, let's move on. Let's address a few more points in the Now You Know video, and then we'll wrap it up. So now you're going to get more of Now You Know's bad, incompetent math. Ready?
But here's the math. 40,000 Teslas divided by 4 service centers, and that's going to be 1 service center for every 10,000 Teslas. Or in Elon terms, that's an order of magnitude, 10 times worse than ICE car service station ratios.
Again, if you remember, ICE car service station ratios is comparing apples to oranges. If you compare to dealerships and dealer service centers, they are 15,000 to 1, where Tesla is going to be 10,000 to 1. If their numbers are correct, which they probably aren't because they're going with their Massachusetts microcosm instead of the broader perspective of how many service centers there are around the world for all the Tesla vehicles around the world. So here's Zac and Jesse again with their high-level business planning, their ability to make better plans for Tesla's future. Then apparently Tesla doesn't know what they're doing. So let's hear how their solution to the problem works.
Heard from Annie up in Maine, whose closest Tesla service center is
Peabody, Massachusetts.
It's 3 hours away. At first, she was lucky to have a mobile ranger drive up to her, and that's great. But he had to drive 3 hours to reach her one way. You can't tell me that's an efficient way to handle service long term. Just as an aside here, there are no Tesla service centers in Maine, New Hampshire, or Vermont. Now look, I get it. There are only about 2,000 EVs in Maine, 2,700 in New Hampshire, and only about 2,300 in Vermont. But Tesla, you need to open a service center in each of those states.
So for me, this is one of those dumber than a box of rocks moments. Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine are very sparsely populated states. If you think the priority for Tesla is to serve better sparsely populated places instead of densely populated places, I think you're missing something. But also what you're ignoring is a large share of the New Hampshire and Maine population lives fairly close to Boston, where the 3 service centers in Massachusetts are. Some of the Vermont population lives reasonably close to Albany, New York, which is probably where I believe there's a service center in Albany, New York, somewhere in New York, the capital region of New York. So some share of the Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont population is underserved. And yes, if you go to Bangor, Maine, which is a small city way out in the middle of nowhere, yeah, sure, Tesla doesn't. Where is Tesla going to locate a service center if they put one in Maine? They're not going to put it in Bangor. They're going to put it in Portland. And it's still going to be a 2-hour drive from Bangor to the service center. Eventually, we would like it if Tesla was able to get service centers in more places, and eventually they probably will. But for you to suggest that that's the priority that Tesla should be focusing on instead of what Tesla's decided is the priority they should be focusing on is hubris. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know how the business is run, and you act like they're not thinking about this when you just heard Zach Kirkhorn explain that they think a lot about this. And your point that the guy who drove up to Bangor as if that was the only service call he did on his entire trip, it's pretty likely that they were able to schedule him to see 2 or 3 other calls on that trip. And was it a super efficient use of his time? No. But that doesn't mean that he spent 1 day servicing 1 customer. You don't have that right. Yeah, it's true. And they've acknowledged this many times before that they don't have service centers everywhere. And this makes it challenging to get more Teslas to more people. They've acknowledged this problem. And it's really becomes a problem that people are less likely to buy a Tesla if there's no service center near them, if there's no superchargers near them. And that's why they're working on improving this for everyone. They have been working on it. They are working on it. And you're just ignoring that. And this idea that we should focus on, I hear this all the time from people, robo-taxis aren't going to work in rural areas. 80 or 90% of the world's population lives in urban and suburban areas. If we're trying to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, maybe we should start with where the people are and not worry so much about where the people aren't. I'm sorry, it's harsh. And I love Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. I've been to all 3 states. I grew up in Albany, New York. I have family in New Hampshire. I've been in Vermont many times. Because I lived close to the Vermont borders, where I bought beer when I was 18 years old, and they raised the drinking age. This is all nice and good, but Zac and Jesse are not in a position to evaluate Tesla's business at a high level. Zac and Elon and Drew are. And the idea that you know how to run Tesla's business better than Tesla knows how to run Tesla's business is just crazy. You ought to get your head straight and think about this in the right way and recognize that they are working on making this better. They have made this better. Just because your anecdotal experience doesn't show that doesn't mean you're right. So I've got more clips from Now You Know that I could go through. And that one of the things they go on is Tesla needs to pay service techs more, when I don't know if Tesla pays service techs more or less than BMW pays service techs. I don't know the answer to that question. My general impression is that Tesla service techs are paid more than the industry average on pay. They have this whole thing about, Tesla stock options don't make up for adequate pay. They want to hire people who are motivated by stock options. And they literally, there's a couple times in this video where one of them makes demeaning comments about Tesla service techs, like they don't understand how stocks work because we are high-level guys who run a YouTube channel, so we understand the stock market, but maybe service techs don't understand how to buy and sell stocks, so that's not really an attraction to them. Well, it's an attraction to the ones who do understand the value of stocks, and maybe those are the people that Tesla wants to hire. There's another moment where Zach talks about some customer who's complaining about a service situation. He says, well, he was wearing a suit. He wasn't some ruffian. Are you saying he was white and not black? What are you saying there? What was your point? It's such an insensitive, thoughtless thing where this is one of those frustrations that I have as a YouTuber myself. One of my focuses has been I want to remain analytical, informative. Now You Know, the reason I stopped watching Now You Know is I love the guys, I love their channel, but there's this tendency as a YouTuber to make your channel more entertaining, and that takes away from the information sometimes. And here's an example of it. They're an entertaining channel. They do all these cute things on their channel, but they do their math wrong. They don't think through the math. They don't think through the analysis. They go with their gut. I don't like this. And then they sort of half-ass the math to try to make it make sense. And they don't get it. And they don't think about it from other perspectives. And they don't do their research. How hard would it have been to look back and see, gee, did Tesla talk about this in an investor call? Oh my God, they've talked about it multiple times, and Zac Kirkhorn just talked about it 3 months ago. You know, I love these guys. I think they helped bring me into this community. They helped make me who I am today as a Tesla YouTuber, but they've fallen off. What happens, and I'm worried it's going to happen to me, that I'm going to get so cocky and so self-confident because I have an audience that tells me how wonderful I am. And I'm making money at this, and what, you know, it's tempting to start to believe you know the business better than they do. And I hope you will tell me if I start talking like I know Tesla's business better than they do. I'm saying this now to now you know. I love you guys. I want you guys to be better. I would love to have a conversation with you about this problem, but only after you listen to Zac Kirkhorn's Q3 2021 only after you listen to what Zac Kirkhorn said in the Q3 2021 investor call. When you listen to that, you want to have a conversation. I would love to have a conversation with you guys about this and anything else related to Tesla. Otherwise, I hope you guys will straighten up, think straight, and get this right, because you have a big voice. Don't abuse it. Don't misuse it. You're ending up misleading people, and a large number of people now think the Tesla service problem is bigger than it really is, and it's a threat to the Tesla business model. When Zac Kirkhorn is on top of it, Elon's on top of it, the Tesla team's on top of it, and the problem is getting smaller, not bigger, and you should know better. Now you know. And don't forget, you can buy the Be Less Wrong t-shirt on elonbits.com. Thank you so much for watching.